What is up? Welcome to Every Single Guitars, where the goal of this channel is to review every single guitar ever made. Today I have a cool guitar that I have actually never bought in my life. I have heard of the brand. I've seen this brand around several times, and I've seen musicians that I look up to and that I watch play this brand as well. I decided to buy it and check it out and see how the guitar is. So today I have a 1986 Kramer 600 ST electric guitar with a notable Floyd Rose tremolo system. So on this channel, I have reviewed some guitars with a Floyd Rose system. From the top of my head, I believe one of them was a 80s made in Japan Fender Stratocaster with a stock Floyd Rose, which I've actually never seen on a Strat. Another one was a Yamaha RGX 211M, I believe, from the late 80s with a Floyd Rose tremolo system. So even though I don't personally play a Floyd Rose, it's a very interesting guitar in my opinion. It's a very interesting concept when it comes to building a guitar. So I decided to see what Kramer's approach was in making this Floyd Rose guitar. So right off the bat, my first impression of this guitar is, when I first saw this guitar in person, the first thing that came to mind was my Yamaha RGX 211M that I reviewed. It looks very similar to this guitar. The color was the same, the body finish was the same, how they did the pickup setup and the knobs and the Floyd Rose setup looked the same. So that was my first impression when I got this guitar, is wow, this guitar looks exactly or very closely to the Yamaha that I reviewed. So when I first buy a guitar, I always check out the weight. For me, I know some people are kind of picky when it comes to weight. You know, they won't buy certain guitars that are over 6 pounds or 7 pounds. You know, but for me, I actually prefer guitars that are heavy. For me, the heavier is the better. You know, half of my guitars are over 8-9 pounds. I just like how if a guitar has a certain weight to it and you just put it on your lap when you play, it just feels good to me. It just feels of a quality guitar. But for this particular guitar, I'd say that this is medium weight. It's not a light guitar. It's not a heavy guitar, but I'd say it's just right in the middle. I'd say if I had to put a weight, this is probably about 7 pounds. Maybe 6.5, 7 pounds, around that range. It's a pretty good weight to it, and it's a weight that I find comfortable on a guitar. This setup right here is very similar to a Strat. 5-way switch, 3 knobs, 1 volume, and 2 tone controls. But one big difference of this guitar is there's actually another selector switch right here, right below the tone knob. And I don't know what it does specifically in terms of the electronics, but I realized that it's kind of similar to, you know, let's say a Fender S1 selector. It just gives you a couple different sounding tones when you put it on a different toggle. So let's say that, you know, if I put this in the middle pickup, and then I put the switch up, and then I put the switch down, it gives you a couple other tones. Another thing that I really like about this guitar is the neck. This is a very comfortable neck. I'd say that this is probably a U-shaped neck. I feel like out of all the guitars that I've owned, the closest neck profile I feel is to a Fender Jag Stang that I reviewed, made in Japan. And in that video, I also talk about how the neck was a very unique neck. It's not a neck that I feel on most guitars. A lot of the guitars I play, the neck is some version of the C neck. This is definitely not a C neck. This is not a V neck. It's a U neck. It's kind of long, but it's very easy to play, and it's really comfortable to play on the lower registers and also the higher registers. And I feel like the reason why they made it a U neck is because, you know, when it comes to Floyd Rose, a lot of the times people play it for shredding, playing fast, Eddie Van Halen, you know, tapping, you know, going up and down. So if you're going up and down the fretboard a lot, you know, if you have a fat, chunky neck, it's kind of hard to do that compared to having a slimmer style neck. So I feel like that's why they went with this approach. When it comes to the neck feel and also the construction of the neck as well as the fretboard, this is very good quality. This is easily better than a Squier quality. Dude, to be honest, I'd say that this neck is probably on par with some made in Japan Fenders that I've played, which is pretty incredible because I don't think this guitar is an expensive guitar. Just the construction of the neck is very high quality. So the biggest difference between a Floyd Rose and a standard guitar, let's say a Strat, is this bridge and saddle setup. This system is just crazy. When I first got this guitar, it was pretty dusty, so I decided to take off the strings and clean it a little bit, but I just cannot figure out how to take the strings off this. For all the other Floyd Rose style guitars I've had, even though the stringing is a little bit different from, you know, regular guitar, once I take off the strings, it usually just comes off the Floyd Rose tremolo. But for this, I took off all the strings. These strings are still locked like flat into the bridge, and honestly I don't know how to take the strings out. I feel like it's something related to this bottom part is pretty interesting, and I feel like I have to use a tool and take this out in order for me to take out the strings, but dude, I just don't know how to do it. But that's the thing with Floyd Rose, man, like the guitar stays in tune very nicely, you know, and that's the whole point of the Floyd Rose. But dude, when it comes to changing the strings, it's just so like inconvenient to change the strings. It's just so difficult. And I feel like for those who are watching this and own a Floyd Rose, you may call me a little bitch. Oh, it's so easy. But bro, I don't play a Floyd Rose. I don't buy a lot of Floyd Roses. So, you know, when it comes to changing this, for me, it's kind of difficult compared to a regular guitar where you can just literally put the strings out and put it in and it'd be easy to go. But I feel like that is the trade-off for the Floyd Rose. Since the whole point of a Floyd Rose is tuning stability, dive bombs and shredding and bending and still allowing the guitar to stay in tune, they have to make this a little bit more different. They have to make this a little bit more sturdy when it comes to strings, you know, because they literally lock this one and then they lock the nut with these screws. So these strings are just stuck, you know, compared to a regular guitar, you know, where there is no locking on the nut area as well as the saddle and bridge area. But two completely different mindsets of guitars in my opinion. But I have played with this guitar a good amount, and I'd say that, you know, for a sub $400, $300 guitar, I'd say that this is probably one of the better quality guitars that I've played. The Yamaha RGX 211M that I reviewed, that was a great guitar. But if I had to choose between that and this, I would easily take this over the Yamaha. It's just overall very well constructed. Even the tuners are not bad. Usually on the lower end guitars, and I honestly don't even know if this is lower end, but on the lower end guitars, the tuners are always the issue, but these are not bad. I wouldn't say these are the highest quality grade tuners, but these tuners are not bad at all, and I could see Kramer behind the tuning pegs, so I'm assuming that these are Kramer designed tuners. But tuners are fine, but it's just the string changing that just gets on my nerves. It's like, bro, whoever designed this is probably genius, but damn, bro, like this is some crazy ass design, bro. Like this, there's a separate knob you have to twist and turn in order to intonate the strings, and then there's another locking thing on the bottom, and then there's a locking thing on the nut, and there's another locking thing at the string trees. It's like, dude, if you break a string on stage with a Floyd Rose, dude, you're fucked. Like there's no way for you to change a string live. Whereas if it's a Strat or a, you know, an ES335, I mean, it's gonna be hard, you know, changing the strings while playing on live, but it's not impossible. I don't think this is possible to change strings live, but overall, it's a pretty solid guitar. Build quality for the price, I'd say that build, this is probably 8 out of 10. Tone, I'd probably give this an 8 out of 10. Sounds great. It kind of sounds like a Strat, and it also kind of sounds like a humbucker because it has a humbucker. And for this, I think I'm gonna do a professional tone review with a mic and everything, because I realized that for some of the videos I record, I just record it straight through the camera mic, and the tone quality is not that good, you know. And I talk about how, oh, this Strat sounds amazing, and then once I hear it back with the camera quality, I'm like, bro, this sounds fucking terrible, dude. So I feel like I have to do a professional tone sound review. I'll probably post that, you know, a week, couple days after this video goes live. But 1986 Kramer 600 ST. If you find this on the market and you like the Floyd Rose style guitars and you're a shredder and you're a dive bomber, then maybe try out this guitar, because this guitar is not bad at all.